Lewis Hamilton had his second winless season in a row, and while he's eagerly waiting for Mercedes to build the championship-winning car, there is certainly a lot he's had to say about how Verstappen's dominance has been played down in the previous couple of years. The seven-time world champion feels like the Dutchman's dominance was mostly because he was very comfortable at the front without any car to actually challenge him for race wins throughout the entire course of the season. However, it seems like Mercedes' lack of competitiveness did make Hamilton question his career choices, and it will definitely affect how the team will act in the foreseeable future regarding building the car. But are Hamilton's claims valid? And more importantly, is there a little bit of jealousy maybe going on here after all the domination he's had with Mercedes from 2014 to 2020? It goes without saying that the 2023 season was one of the most dominating outlets that the F1 sport has witnessed, mostly because of Verstappen's charade that went beyond any border imaginable, winning 19 out of the 22 venues, leaving 2 wins for his teammate and 1 for Sainz in Singapore. It's definitely one of the strongest statements made in the sport, and what many fans and experts are afraid of is that this kind of dominance will continue in the following years until 2026, even though Red Bull is assured that the gap has started to shrink. But when you have such a competitive car, one that can win races with 18 seconds of difference and has not been upgraded since July, it does make you wonder whether it's the driver that makes the difference or if it's just that every other team got the regulations extremely wrong. If you were to look at Perez's pace, you would say that we would be looking at an extremely competitive season without Verstappen in it, and this is one of the main reasons why Hamilton feels like there was so much monotony throughout the entire 2023 campaign. According to the 7-time world champion, the Dutchman, who cruised easily to his 3rd championship, was not tested properly in the front, something he felt a lot more on his skin throughout the domination years with Mercedes and also back in 2008 with McLaren. Elaborating on this even further, he went on to say, "You can go through the lap times and some of the data from Max. He's just chilling at the front more often than not. I don't think he's broken a sweat during the year. Even when we were chasing him in Austin before I was disqualified, I don't think he was sweating. I think he was just able to control it. And when you are in that position, when you have performance and can back off, the car goes further, the tyres go longer, and you are in a sweet spot, and it is amazing to be in that place. Ultimately, they had done an amazing job and worked and deserved it." The fact that Verstappen now has more wins than Vettel from 2020 to 2023 than the German driver had throughout his entire career speaks volumes about where the Dutchman is currently headed, and with only 25 years of age, I guess the sky really is the limit with the powerful machinery that's been placed in his hands. Regardless, the last thing that the sport needed is to enter from one era of domination, the Mercedes one, to another one with Red Bull, with 2021 being the only buffer zone in between. Although I don't agree with Hamilton and Wolff's comments about Red Bull boring the fans, especially after they won 8 consecutive Constructors' Championships, the fact that the sport will become and is slowly becoming a boring competition to watch is something that the FIA and F1 does need to pay a lot more attention to. With this tempo, Verstappen will be looking to surpass Hamilton's stats in the next couple of years, while still having around 20 years left in him to drive in the sport, if he doesn't fall back around his 30s as he initially wanted to do. According to Sky Sports F1 pundit Johnny Herbert, Verstappen won't have it that hard to become the driver with the most wins on the grid. However, he warned that the dominance we are currently seeing won't last forever. Elaborating on this, Herbert said, "The only way that's going to happen for Max is, it's very obvious, but it's the ability of Red Bull to be able to achieve what Mercedes achieved in that dominant time with the championships that they won with Nico Rosberg and Lewis. Can they carry on? I think there is a good, strong chance they can. Is there time on his side before the rules change? Obviously in 2026. They're in a very good, strong position, but I think we're getting to that point again where I think there's always a certain level that you can get to and you might edge it slightly better year by year or during a season, but then everybody else starts to catch up. Either way, it's not like Hamilton had the worst season of his career. After all, he did finish 3rd in the Drivers' Championship, and Mercedes did manage to hold off Ferrari for P2 in the Constructors' Drivers' Championship, winning $9 million extra on the way of doing so. Compared to his teammate, Hamilton finished with 6 podiums, while Russell only had 2 to his name, which is again a very strong comparison we can make for how the season went down for Mercedes. Nonetheless, for a team like Mercedes, this is definitely not the goal, and fighting to keep P2 in the last race is something they won't be looking forward to doing in the upcoming season. However, Wolff's wish has been made loud and clear, and it came from his own mouth, as there is nothing more he would want from Hamilton than to match the pace of his 2021 nemesis and prove that the championship can still be won by the Brackley-based squad. Elaborating on this even further, Wolff went on to say, "It's difficult to comprehend that good drivers in various teams have these oscillations of performance. You've seen this in Abu Dhabi with Sainz and Leclerc. You've seen it with George and Lewis, Piastri and Norris. And the obvious one is Perez and Verstappen. Perez is not a second slower than Max. So what is that? We've seen it swinging in both directions. So fundamentally, I think it's all around the tyre grip. If you are able to have the car in a sweet spot, a stable platform that you start the work with at the beginning of the weekend, then you can extract performance. I think if you are not, there's just no performance. You're falling off the cliff, literally. So I have no explanation for that. I think the only one this year who has understood how to drive these tyres is Max." All of this definitely has the potential to orchestrate how the next couple of seasons will go down, but it goes without saying that the situation is not looking very good for everyone out there not named Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez included. This is why some of the more experienced drivers might want to look into retirement, just because there is absolutely no chance to fight for race wins or championships. And while this is the last thing that I would want to see happen with drivers like Hamilton and Alonso, if the domination from Verstappen continues in the next couple of years, this is going to be an option on their table. Hamilton himself said that the poor 2 years he's just survived with Mercedes made him think whether it was him who was not able to extract the maximum performance out of the car, or whether it was the car itself. And when talking about this, the 7-time world champion went on to say, "Ultimately, when you have difficult seasons like this, there are always going to be moments when you're like, is it me or is it the car? Do you still have it? Has it gone?" Because you're missing that when the magic happens, when everything comes together, the car and you, and that spark, it's extraordinary. And that's what you're in the search for. I'm only human. If anyone in the world tells you they don't have those things, they're in denial. We're all human beings. Luckily for Hamilton, Mercedes is working on a new project for the W15, and they won't be hanging on any concept they previously had in the past couple of years. The positive thing is that James Allison will be back in charge of the W15's construction for the first time in the past couple of years, when this role belonged to the now departed Mike Elliott. The question remains whether or not Mercedes can build a competitive piece of machinery in the period of 3 months, but as all things stand right now, there is little to no hope that we'll see Verstappen being dethroned anytime soon. What do you think about Hamilton's assessment of Verstappen's dominance? Let us know in the comments below.